Chapter 8. So, Alex, what would you like to discuss today? Mrs. Moss adjusts her notepad and pen and looks at me expectantly. The talking to someone arrangement happened much quicker than I had anticipated. It's been less than a week from speaking to Mrs. Lee, and I'm sat in Mrs. Moss's office at the end of the corridor in the West Wing. I'd like to talk about my sister, I suppose. I shift awkwardly in my seat, not sure whether that's the right answer. Anyway, I bet she's one of those teachers that doesn't think there's a right or wrong answer. Mrs. Moss is quite young, with a neatly cut fringe and pretty eyes. She seems kind and patient, the type of person I could talk to if I wanted to talk, which I'm not sure I do. Okay, your sister, Jenna. She briefly flicks through her notepad. Older than you? Yes. And what does she do? I sigh, the feeling of numbness returning, spreading through my veins like ice. What does she do? She sits at home feeling sick. She goes to hospital for tests and appointments, and soon she's going back for her next round of chemo. She cries when she finds hair on her pillow in the morning. She watches daytime TV quiz shows, and sometimes I play along with her when I get back from school. She goes for drives with Kent and sometimes to the movies. She takes different drugs every morning with a swig of water and assures Mum that she's fine. She's not going to chuck them back up. I'm not going to go through all of this with Mrs. Moss, of course. I know her question was stupid, but she probably doesn't know it was stupid, and I don't want to offend her and ruin this whole counselling thing already, not after Mum was so happy about it. It'll be really beneficial, Alex, she told me the evening Mrs. Lee had called her to confirm. Such a good idea. It will really help you open up and deal with things. I don't know, I told her, focusing on scooping the last of the rice in some complicated spicy curry she had made. After the second big announcement, she was back to cooping herself up in the kitchen, and Dad was still being his annoying self every evening when he wasn't down the pub, so no change there then. I want you to give it a go, Mum said sternly. Honestly, Alex, it's like a little weight off your shoulders. I had a really good session with my counsellor today. What? Dad had bellowed, slamming down his fork. You don't have a bloody counsellor, Cindy. Yes, I do, Mum had said impatiently, and maybe you should see him too. He's really good, very professional. The conversation was left at that, with Dad mumbling that he didn't need some shrink to tell him that his daughter is ill and he feels crap about it. Alex, Mrs. Moss makes a note in a notebook, how are you finding school? I think back to my reduced homework timetable and my rubbish grades and my encounter with Juice. All right, I answer. I get to see my friends, but I find it hard to concentrate. Yes, Mrs. Moss nods, pleased to have finally got a proper answer out of me. Maybe I was judging too soon. Maybe Mrs. Moss does think there are right or wrong answers. I can imagine. What do you find yourself thinking of in class? I shrug. My sister, how she's doing. The numb feeling seems to be slowly easing out of me. I actually feel emotions right now. Annoyed that the clock is ticking too loud. Tired because I didn't sleep well last night. Upset over everything. I think of Jenna. I carry on with a sudden urge to speak about it. And if Jenna's feeling sick, or if any more of her hair has fallen out, or if she's with Kent or Mum today, or if she's alone, if she's sleeping okay, or if she struggles like I do, I think about what's going to happen in a week or 2 or 3, more chemo. And I think, is she going to be bald for Christmas? That's soon, you know. And then I think about after Christmas. How long will she be here after Christmas? Years, I hope, but maybe months. We don't know. I don't know, and I hate not knowing. I catch my breath, my heart beating fast. I know I've been rambling on a whim and probably not making sense, but it was honest rambling. I think Mrs. Moss knows that this is the right answer. She makes a note. I understand, she says softly. Do you often think of the what-ifs and the future? Yes, I nod, my heart still thudding away. It's the first time I'm opening up in what feels like forever. It's weird. But nothing is certain, Mrs. Moss says, clicking her pen. You know that, don't you, Alex? One thing is certain, I tell her. Death is certain. I study her face as I say this, expecting her to be outraged or upset or confused or something. But she smiles instead a sympathetic kind of smile. Yes, she agrees, it is certain we will all die. I'm glad she didn't lie or try and skate around it. It's almost a relief to hear her say it, a grown-up finally admitting that all our lives come to an end, that Jenna's life will come to an end. It feels like all the adults in my life zip their mouths shut when it comes to this. I think Mum and Dad think that if they don't talk about it, it won't happen. I know they're wrong. I've been having these dreams, I say, about Jenna dying in all sorts of ways, and then things happen to her after. She floats away or becomes a ghost or something. I don't know. It's weird. I draw what happens in them, and then I can never really get back to sleep. Do you have any drawings with you? Mrs. Moss asks. I'd be interested in having a look, if you wouldn't mind. No, they're at home, I say truthfully. I would never bring them into school. That'd be the day that Juice steals my bag or something. Next thing, I'll be the laughingstock of the school. That's okay, Mrs. Moss says, making another note. And are these dreams scary at all? Unsettling? Some. And they're all about Jenna after she dies. Yes. Mrs. Moss scribbles something down on a notepad. Have you spoken to your mum about your issues with sleeping? You really should get that sorted, Alex. Lack of sleep at your age can have a detrimental effect on... I'm not here to talk about that, I interrupt her. Sorry, miss, but I'm not. Okay, I understand. She pauses, looking over her notes. Are you of a certain religion, Alex? No. You don't have a specific belief or idea about what happens after death? No. Well, Mrs. Moss closes her notebook and looks me dead in the eye. I believe, Alex, that you're an incredibly brave, strong boy. You're coping well considering the circumstances, and understandably you are very concerned for your sister, not only in her well-being in life, but after life too. And your uncertainty in what will happen to her, and indeed, as you said, what will happen to everybody, is disturbing you. So much it almost torments you. I stare back at her. The clock is still ticking. She's right. She's given me a right answer. Alex, I wish I had a simple answer for you, she goes on, but there are so many different beliefs and theories and ideologies out there about what happens when we die. I can't just thrust one of those on you. That would be wrong. It's up to you to come to a conclusion. I believe that when you do, you will feel a lot more comforted. I open my mouth and close it again. Then it clicks, the not knowing. The not knowing upsets Jenna, and the not knowing upsets me. It must upset everyone, in fact. Every single person surely must wonder at some point what happens when their lives end. So that's it. The answer to Jenna's happiness and my peace of mind, and actually everyone in the whole world's peace of mind, is to just find an answer. That's what I've got to do. Thank you, Mrs. Moss. I spring out of my chair and grab my bag. I've got work to do. Our time isn't up yet, Alex, she protests, standing as well. The sun hits her face and I can see the faint freckles dotted across her nose. Makes me think of Daisy. It's okay, I'm done now. Well, okay, we've made a good start. She follows me to the door. Same time next week. Sure, I call from the corridor, and I mean it. Today was helpful. Mrs. Moss led me to the most obvious solution to my numbness, my dreams, my worry for my sister. All I need to do is to discover what will happen to her. All I need to do is to find out what lies beyond.